What's up, YouTube? It's your boy Sanchez 405 coming at you. It's all the Warpath. If you're new to the channel, make sure you click that subscribe button. Hit that bell so you get notifications anytime there's new content posted to the channel. And as always, like, comment, share this video out because we talk Washington football team all the time here. And we've got one of the best in the business, the man from the Burgundy and Gold Report, Aniba, is here with us to talk about free agency. And Adam is here to talk me off a cliff. And he's going to talk me off the edge. He said that in his tweets. He's going to talk people off the edge. And how are you doing today, Adam?
I'm great, man. Thanks for having me on.
Appreciate you coming on. And so we'll dive right into it. Washington made their first move, allegedly. Now it's kind of getting finalized here since we are in the new league year. Happy new league year to you. And this is best time of year. So Ryan Fitzpatrick comes to terms with the Washington football team, 1 year, $10 million deal. Incentives could add that to $12 million. You and our guy Manny are big fans of this move, and talk about what you thought of this move to Ryan Fitzpatrick.
Right. And what I said on Twitter, and I pretty much echo in a lot of the sentiments of, some of the people that actually watched him and appreciate what he does is you can't be too high on this move, but there is absolutely no reason to be disappointed. I've heard money. I've heard this. Look at the Tyrod Taylor deal. He was actually the number one guy I was paying for to be a bridge. So to see what he got in similar to Ryan Fitzpatrick, I thought Fitzpatrick was a long shot. I thought he'll retire in Miami in the sun, no taxes, and he'll just walk away that way. So I was shocked. So I honestly didn't even have him on, one of my dark horses, anybody. But I think, I put out an article today about, Washington wanted, a guy that could go downfield. We got the gunslinger. The number one concern is going to be the interceptions. But again, I urge people not to look at the career as a whole, but to look at especially last year in Miami, because what you want to see is any sign of, going backwards in his game, regression. And what I saw is the complete opposite. I saw them struggling with Tua. Tua was just not getting it. His pocket awareness wasn't there. In came Ryan Fitzpatrick. I mentioned specifically in my article that Raiders game where the famous face mask, he's throwing a no-look pass, gets the call, they win the game with seconds expired. Listen, you want a feel-good story, you got it. We talk about Alex Smith and all that, great story. I'm glad to see them move on because for once, Washington didn't hold on to a guy too long. But I think Ryan Fitzpatrick, you give him that 1 year deal, come in, he's your bridge. Are we going to trade up to get a guy? Again, that's a story for another time. But I think if you're looking for that bridge guy, which is what you're looking for in free agency with a quarterback, you're not looking to get a 3-4 year deal because, God's honest truth, they're not going to be available if they're that good. So to me, Ryan Fitzpatrick, Taylor behind him, we'll see what happens to Allen. They gave him a fifth last year, so I don't think they're quick to let him walk. And, to tender him that $850,000 contract, it was a no-brainer. But I see no way that they're done. If we're, talking about a trade up, maybe a day 2-3 guy, which I'm not too high on a lot of them. But basically, in the end, there's no reason to panic with him. I think a lot of people are thinking we're going to see 30 interceptions. Just look at the last 7 games. I continue to say it. A lot of interceptions aren't always on him, and he looked to do that check down more than he ever did in his career last year. So, again, I just urge folks, check out my article. Go to, look at the highlights of the last 7 games, and you'll see, what he can do in the capacity of, a bridge quarterback role.
Yeah, and the link to that article will be in the description below, so y'all can go and check that out. And I guess when I first saw the news, I was just like, wow, like really, this is the best. This is the best we can do. And then as you kind of sit back there, it's kind of like when you yell at somebody getting an argument, you kind of realize that you may have been a little too harsh on them. You never say the first thing that comes to your mind. But this is what I thought when I looked at Ryan Fitzpatrick. I looked at a guy who had never been part of a winning program. And I think at the end of the day, Herm Edwards said it the best. You play to win the game. Right. And I think that this guy, he wins sexy. He loses sexy. This is what I always say about him. I think about 2018 where they start out 2-0 and the expectation of Ryan Fitzpatrick succeeding. I think that is his ultimate killer. I don't think he's bad. I don't think he's good. I think he's somewhere in the middle. He's just, man, he's Bart and Lisa Simpson. Man, that's what we're doing there. and he's had some talent. You look at Houston, you look at Cincinnati. He's had some great guys, and even in Tampa, he had Mike Evans and Deshaun Jackson before Deshaun Jackson thought being on IR was popular. So that's where my concerns with Fitzpatrick are. Now, granted, he's got Scott Turner and a lot of folks. I think I can't remember who was from the Athletics said this is a Scott Turner quarterback right here,
for sure.
and he's an older version of Alex Smith. I think he'll risk it, and he's mobile. Like, talk about his mobility, man. I don't think people realize that this guy is 39, but he can out. You can arguably say he's could spin circles around Dwayne Haskins, not to bring up an old wound.
But no, what I like about him, I really don't focus on his mobility, but that's to come. But it's about him making plays to create something downfield, a la Russell Wilson before Russell Wilson was doing it. So Fitzpatrick, I think what we have to keep in mind is almost every situation he was brought in, it was never to be the man. It was always in that utility role, bridge role. So again, I throw caution to wind with a lot of fans out there that are getting upset about it. Is you have to look at each situation. And yeah, he's going to throw turnovers, but you know what? A lot of those turnovers are in games. You'll see they're down 14. I even saw games they were down 20 plus points. And that's where a good amount of interceptions came. So he has the balls to actually take some throws when the game's over and it's garbage time. Sometimes other guys just want to check it down and let the clock go out. That's what I love about him. What I try to focus on him is his toughness and running ability. And the fact that he can, make plays with his feet, to me, is more about a testament to his football IQ. You actually see it. He's got the angles down. Very rarely do you see him take that knockout hit. So I think with Turner's offense, they want to move the pocket. They want to have a lot of motion, a lot of, slants, curls, comebacks. This is what he can do. He's got the label as gunslinger. But again, you can reel that in if you have actual talent around him. And we can talk about the other teams. But right now, as I mentioned in my article, you have McLaurin, you have Thomas. What I did mention is Gibson. What I'm hoping to see next year is more of him in the receiver role, because that's what I scouted him as, and that's what I like to see him, is that old school throwback utility, scat back, running back that's actually built like a linebacker. So I think you can add some pieces around him to get the best out of him. But in the end, when you need that 4 or 5 yards, it doesn't matter. It's never about a career decision with him. It's always about winning the game, and that's what I think separates him from who we've had in Washington. The closest comparison I can come to is honestly Mark Brunell, because that is the last guy that we had, was somewhere else. Granted, he was differently Pro Bowl starter. I get it. But we're talking about periods in their career, what they could do. And what Brunell did at that time, I can definitely see Patrick doing that for 1 year. So excuse me for that noise.
Y'all see the passion in Adam right there. This man is selling me. He's talking
my room's falling apart here.
You're selling me, brother, on Ryan Fitzpatrick. And I now we look at that move to Fitzpatrick and what he can add. Terry McLaurin obviously is going to eat this year with him, because that's what he does. We move over to the defense. In these midnight hours, we spend late nights waiting on Washington to make a move. We'll flip to the defensive side of the ball. William Jackson the third. I got to put the 3 sticks emphasis on there. Man, you talk about a cover corner. This guy's got better coverage skills than most of the cell phone providers out here. What did you see out of what do you like out of William Jackson from what you saw out of him over his time in Cincinnati?
And then he's a guy that I watched in Houston, when he was coming out. And I really like what he did in college. He was viewed as a speed guy. The question was, could he convert to the NFL as far as, press corner, stay on the hips? Because in order for him to utilize that speed, he had to have technique. And I think that he's had a couple years in the NFL. People are focused on only the 3 interceptions, but one of them was for, a pick 6. I think it was 78 yards. So I think you got to take that with a grain of salt. I think you have to look at who he has around him right now. We have Fuller, we have Moreland, we have him. Another guy I scouted coming out of the HBCU is Danny Johnson. I do hope he's in the fold, because he's another quick guy, but they still need, that other corner. I think, going into the draft, by giving the money to Jackson, it showed me that's not going to probably be a first round priority, but I can definitely see them coming back around in, the second, third round and getting more of that 6'1", 6'2" corner that can hopefully be one of the outside guys. Cause I can definitely see them getting to a point where they have Fuller playing more in the safety role, going back and forth. Cause I think that's what he does well. But as far as what they gave him financially, I think people are really getting crazy on the whole $42 million deal. In the end, it's $26 million. It's a 2-year deal. They can get out for year 3. But honestly, I think, it's all about the market right now. When we're talking about crazy money, we can talk about Trent Williams because that's insane
Oh
for
God! Oh
somebody
no!
at that point in his career. And I got a
Oh
lot of smoke
gosh!
for saying that I thought that was absurd for a contract of that length at someone at that point of his career. But I think you have a young guy. He's under 30 years old. I think, that's 4.35 speed. That's going to come in really handy with the defensive line in front of him. So we talk about fit. It's all about fit. The fact that he has Chase Young and all these guys up front, we're going to see a lot more tip balls coming next year. Cause I think once they can get that middle linebacker area situated, you're going to see a lot of those. And players like Jackson, they're opportunists. It's just he didn't get as many opportunities in Cincinnati. And sometimes a change of scenery can make all the difference.
Yeah, and I mean, my goodness, you just brought up Trent Williams. I looked at that this morning. What was it? 6 years, $133, and I was like, he's going to be 33 in July. I don't.
Yeah.
I,
Yeah.
Hey,
I'm
good for
dumbfounded.
Sam. Yeah, good for Sam.
Good for
You
him.
see, Martin Mayhew leaves there, and sensibility, I guess, is left San Francisco. But like I said, it's a good deal. He's a number 1 corner in Jackson who's getting paid number 2 money. So I don't think you can really argue about that. And that's good that you have these guys like Rob Rogers in there and Marty Herney who can make these deals for the guys. Now, they did take care of some family business, and we'll go through these guys kind of 1, 2, 3. Dustin Hopkins is back in Washington, and my question to you is twofold. Did he do enough down the stretch for you to be like, hey, this is well deserved? And then second of all, do you think that they will bring in competition for him come July?
I think it would
Excuse
be
me.
crazy. Yeah, I think it'd be crazy not to bring in, another kicker or two. It's, these are kickers. It was a 1-year deal from what I understand. So,
Yeah.
He's made some good kicks, but he's missed some really bad kicks for them, and definitely cost them games. So I'm fine with bringing him back, but I think if they don't bring in competition, I'd have to question their special teams leadership. So I think that you'll see some competition, but again, usually the incumbent that's usually in there, that's been there for a while, usually gets the job unless he totally loses in camp. So unless somebody steps up and starts blowing him away, it's his job to lose. But it's the powerful leg. It's that more than the accuracy, because I think they love Gruden even loved it on kickoffs to have no returnable kicks. They love that. So I think when they're in clutch situations and they have to kick that 55-60, they feel somewhat comfortable with a stronger leg. But again, I think they'll bring in competition.
Yeah, and you talk about the leg. That's what got him here in 15, because Kai Forbath, he was kicking it to about the 15 and people returning it. So I like I say, I like Hopkins. I think he cleared it up, and people don't realize he had a groin. There were reports of a groin injury, and with kickers, that is devastating. Y'all remember like John Hall, he never recovered from that groin injury that he had, and it was awful. So I think that's great to have Hopkins back. Cam Sims is back too. I think clearly he's got some work to do. He's probably a number 4 receiver on this team. Do you see him on this roster? And we'll get into draft picks here in a few minutes, but do you see him on this roster come September?
Yeah, I think he gives you the ability to go downfield and get that 50-50 balls. I think more now than ever with Fitzpatrick, I think you'll see more of that. So, I mentioned those guys in my article, between him and Antonio Gandy-Golden, I think it's crazy that there's people that have already given up on AGG. Again, small school guys are my thing. And at Liberty, I watched, from 2018 to 2019, the improvement, and I'm expecting to see that jump. He's just too smart of a kid, man. The antics with him, solving Rubik's Cubes during interviews, that's just part of what he can do. I've talked to, people that have been around him, coaches, and they just insist that once he gets it, he gets it. So, maybe bold prediction, but I think, we'll start with Cam, but I think in the end, AGG is going to be that 50-50 ball guy. that gets you, this year I can see him going for 600 yards and 5 touchdowns. But in the end, speed. That's what I'm pounding the table for. I think this draft boasts it. I see guys in free agency that I like, but the nonsense that's going on with wide receivers, I think they're holding out for money that Washington doesn't want to pay. So they might not sign one of these guys open right now.
Yeah, and I guess the last one who really just came on at the end of the season and he didn't play, Lamar Miller. Do you think he can make a push on this roster and get back to what he was doing in Miami and maybe a fragment of Miami in what he did in Houston too?
Yeah, I think, he comes in, he takes Barber's place. So right now that's the third. So you're talking about between, Gibson and McKissick. Do I see them going in with those three? No, I think they're definitely going to look at somebody in the draft. If I'm Washington, looking at what they have, I'm looking at some power back guys with good hands because I think AG Gibson can do a lot of both. But I think that if you want to get the best out of him, you're just going to have him, motioning out, draw plays, screens, sweeps. But I think to get that power guy, that we do have a couple guys in this draft early on, but I think we'll see them mainly look on the day 3 for those kind of, big back guys. So I think you'll see them roll with, Gibson is probably one of the lead guys coming in, but man, they're going to have some options on day 3 of this draft for that. But free agency, I think that they took Lamar Miller. I think it was a smart move. He was with them for the end. There's something to be said for knowing the system. So with that being said, I think he has a decent chance, but I think it's 50-50 that he even makes the final roster.
And so kind of taking care of that family business. Like I said, are there any other areas that you see in free agency that could be addressed? I know people have talked about Curtis Samuel probably coming to Washington, and we'll probably have to wait till 3 a.m. to get that news, like a payday with a direct deposit. But do you see who's a free agent that sticks out to you? It could be Curtis Samuel, but who are some of them that may stick out that will fill a need for this team?
Yeah, of course, I thought you'd be dumb if you didn't say Galladay. Galladay is one of the most talented, pass catchers available, but I think he's going to be just under Amari Cooper. I think that's what's going on with the salary cap going up next year. These guys are looking for those 1-2 year deals with a lot more front loaded in the first 2 years. So in the end, he'll probably still get 15 to 18 million. I think that'll be too rich. With Samuel, he's my fit. And it's not just because he's another Carolina guy. It's just he does what Washington's looking for. I think you can have him in the slot, you can have him in the backfield. But again, I'm still hearing this $10 million plus salary demand, and I don't have a problem with it. But from what I understand, the Terry McLaurin, they're going to want to extend him. They're not going to wait. They'll be smart with this one. So I don't think they want to have 2 high-priced receivers, and even that could be too much for them. So in the end, that's a guy I would like to see them. People talking about Juju. I think he rubbed a lot of GMs the wrong way. I think the money was right. I'd have no problem with him. Talent's talent. But a guy that I want Villanueva, the tackle from the Steelers. I think, we've talked about some of the other guys. We saw the Trent deal. So unfortunately, I think that he's probably going to be pricing himself out because even if he gets 70% of what Trent got, I don't think they're looking to pay him that. So that'll probably be something they go into, the draft looking for. But yeah, right now, I think what they've done, probably we're looking at second, third wave guys. So yeah, I'm not even to that point right now. I think if the Samuel fails, on to the next guys. But I love the depth of receiver in this draft. So I'm not too concerned if they pass on that position right now.
Yeah, I man, that Villanueva, I think that would fill that's a Ron guy. If you put like a poster on there, I think it'd be him and Ron. I'd vote for that ticket on any local election. But I you kind of look at today's news that came out, and I don't think people take in consideration how important Nick Sundberg was to this team over the last 12 years. Him, Dustin Hopkins, and Tressway have been the model of consistency since 2015 with this team. And he's a good dude. Just talk about what this loss means to this special teams unit.
First of all, I have to say, the charity, the loads of love that he was involved with around DC, that meant something to me. My wife was actually a teacher for, a few years in Northeast Washington, DC, before his time there. But as soon as I heard that idea, I was in my wife's school and I saw some of the, the problems that we heard of just simple things of, laundry, having available clothes if they come in, it's a hard to let. And I think to be able to lose somebody that in the community, I think that's huge. So I'll start with that. But special teams, let's be real about it. I don't think it's a hard position to really feel at the long snapper. They usually don't do too much, but again, great guy, great charitable foundation, and we'll miss him for that. But I think as far as his contributions that way, I think they'll just be fine.
I don't know. We had Austin East there, and he was slow off that snap a couple of times for us. But yeah. And another random question I have for you. A lot of people, and you may see these in some of these groups and on Twitter. Gosh, what in the world is going on with Bryce Love and Reuben Foster? Do you, if I'm asking Adam, general manager Adam, coach Adam, are you holding your breath waiting on these guys, or are you just saying, hey, it's nice to know you, have a nice career? What are you thinking there, man?
Yeah, I'm from both. I've followed them closely. I'm a big Alabama guy. I've been following them since Chris Samuels was a freshman there. And the situation with Foster, I think that he might catch on with someone, but the nerve issues, just the different things I'm reading, he still hasn't had full capacity of that. As Washington fans, we can remember Jaquan Jarrett that was with us and, lost pretty much all feeling on one side. It's not quite as dramatic as that, but I don't see him coming back to Washington. As far as, our Stanford guy, man, Love is really the most upsetting because I wrote articles on him. I watched exhausting amount of film dating back to high school. But obviously, there was not full disclosure because they said it was a second cleanup surgery after the ACL injury. He had no prior issues, nothing more than a sprained ankle. But apparently that knee is bad because just the amount of distrust, what they're saying is sometimes this happens. They do lose explosions sometimes from these injuries. And, that speed was one of his best assets as a Heisman runner-up. But I think the writing is probably on the wall for him. So I think he'll probably be out of the league next year, this coming season.
I got you. Yeah, I'm to that point now. It's been two years. Time to move on. It's a business at the end of the day, and that's the thing. But we get ready to dive into your favorite portion now, and that is the draft expert. And y'all, I'm telling you, if you haven't been to his website, Burgundy Gold Report, you got to go there. I went on there, and I'm like, oh, I know these guys. I've been looking up these guys. I like these guys. So I give you the card on April 29th. What are you doing at 19? Are you staying pat? Are you trading back? Or you staying? Or who are you taking? Or what are you going to do? What are some scenarios you might have in your head that you would like to see the team do?
Well, the first is exactly, you have to look at the quarterback. What is it going to take to move up? Everyone's questioning, is there a guy to move up? Personally, I'm not a Justin Fields guy. I spent a lot of time. I just don't see. I see him as maybe a project, maybe later round in the first round if you're at the end back half of it. But he will go earlier based on demand. But man, I love Zach Wilson and Trey Lance. I think Wilson has gone at 2, so I think Washington fans will be looking at the Lance option. But I think his pro day just showed how good he is when they just threw in a lot of pro concepts. And I think the 1 year is going to hurt him. And a lot of teams are going to really, hope that he falls. But I think you're going to have Washington, Carolina, and a few other teams that are looking to have a quarterback for a motion offense. Because I keep hearing the Lamar Jackson talk. That's not what he is. Lamar Jackson is a little more silky smooth the way he gets in and out. This guy is just a Russell Wilson type of lower his shoulder kind of guy and look to make plays. But he's going to get out on the run. But he was in the pistol. He was in the shotgun. I think he's ready-made for the NFL. So I've heard the ideas about making him a project, but you can bring him in and design an offense right away. We saw Atlanta do it for Michael Vick. We've seen Baltimore do it for Jackson. And I think in year 2, you can really open it up. So what is going to be the cost to move from 19 to get Lance? We'll see how the top 5 shapes up. If Lance is available after the top 5, I think you could see Washington play.
Okay.
If that's not the scenario and they sit pat at 19, man, it's who falls. If we're talking about receivers, one of the guys that really blew me away was, Rashad Bateman from Minnesota. I had him as a, mid to late first round, but then he popped off a 4.35 40. So that guy is in the top 20 discussion. And then, we'll talk the linebackers, man. If Xavier Collins or Micah Parsons is there, middle linebacker solidifies this defense. So let's see what happens, man.
Bless my audience with just what you know about one, the Golden Hurricane, man. Just tell me about this man. I love Xavier Collins. The dude, it should be illegal to be that big, that fast, and that skilled on a quarterback. Just talk about Xavier Collins, man.
I'll start with the first thing. There's a lot of guys out in the national media. They've started to change their tone, but keep talking about him as an outside rusher, and that's all because he's 6'4", 260. That's how you know the guys, the ones between watching the film and guys that are just hearing about it and talking to their friends. Because, you're talking about a coverage linebacker at 6'4", 260 with 4.5 speed. The guy can lay the wood, but his anticipation ability, he had a pick six, I think it was 97 yards for a game winner last year. Xavier Collins is the total package, and I think everybody was on the Micah Parsons, for so long. He's going to be a top 10 guy. He's gone. But what's happening now is Xavier Collins, I'm telling you, he looks like a guy in the silver and black. I hate to say it, but I think he'll be a Raider. So, he's my top guy. But what that does is it helps guys like Micah Parsons who have some questionable locker room issues, nothing domestic. If we're going to believe the unofficial stuff, it was teammates, this and that. But you're talking about a guy like Micah Parsons. He was looked as a top 5 prospect this time last year. So either one of those to 19, I could definitely see them falling. And if you can solidify that Mike linebacker, that brings the whole defense together. I don't think you sweat sweat at getting a number 1 corner, and you don't have to sweat having a number 1 free safety, because if you have that quarterback of your backside, everything is good. So to me, middle linebacker is my top need for this team all around right now.
Yeah, absolutely. And then you lose. I mean, he wasn't great, but he was good in spots in KPL, who just went to Houston. So, but Lord have mercy. You talk about Xavier Collins. Lord, I could sit here and talk 40 minutes on Xavier Collins and what this man does. It's illegal, dude. But, you kind of talked about quarterbacks in the later rounds. So if Washington just say we do draft a linebacker, or if a lineman is there or something at 19, or wide receiver, talk about some day 2, day 3 guys that may fit this offense.
Right. And unlike years past, the 5th, 6th, even 7th round guys, I think are pretty much a wasted pick this year, because, they have Montez on the practice squad, who in my opinion could have been a 7th round guy. So they have a guy stashed away for that, big guy, can get you yards. But, we're talking about those day 2, 3 guys. Kellen Monda is a guy who really, opened some eyes in the Senior Bowl. But I'll be honest with you, I've been watching him a while, and he's got a long way to go. I see some Kaepernick in him, not, to be completely honest. I see a lot, the body style, a lot of the fluid movement, but he's a project. A guy I really like, and I was hoping to see more of him, was Jamie Newman. Wake Forest transferred to Georgia, never played at Georgia, opted out. I really, really like him. I think the Senior Bowl, he's away from football. I think there was a lot of things going on. My favorite safety, Richie Grant, picked him off twice, made it look bad in practice. But Newman, if we're talking about with the 4th round, I think it would really depend on how they address the quarterbacks, because you're talking about Fitzpatrick, Taylor, maybe Allen, and they get taken a flyer on Newman. I don't know. I think you could probably use that pick, wiser, especially on offensive line in that realm, because I think if you get a quarterback on day 2, day 3 this year, there's no expectations they're playing this year. I think you roll with Fitzpatrick if you don't move this trade up and Taylor, and then you look at that position next year. I think fans are, they want it now. They say it has to happen now, but the point of a rebuild is to get all your ducks in a row. And like I keep saying, people argue that quarterback is the number 1 need, but I say middle linebacker is, because once you solidify that, having a top 5 defense, as we saw, we can get better. I think that shows you can get to the playoffs with that kind of unit. Now you add a quarterback that actually can get you yards downfield. Granted, he's a middle of the pack guy, but he's a guy that's going to not be scared to go downfield. I think if you continue to add what they have in Logan Thomas and the other guys, there's no reason to think they can't take the division again. So patience is the word I use. If they don't find that, future franchise guy, don't reach. So a day 2 or 3 guy, personally, I wouldn't do it. I think, invest in other positions.
Okay. So you brought up Logan Thomas, which he was probably the best free agent that we brought in last year. And I mean, he outplayed Austin Hooper, who was the top free agent last year, and a reformed quarterback, as I like to call him. He needs help. Because at the end of the season, people started keying in on him. He needs help. I think they've got some draft options. Of course, Kyle Pitts is unrealistic. That ain't happening.
Right.
But talk about some guys that could go maybe in day 2 that you like that could help out Logan Thomas, and we would have a legitimate tight end. Because be honest, we only played with one last year.
And I'm glad you mentioned it, because there's so many people that just get caught up. They said, we have a number 1 tight end. Why do you need anyone? Well, I go look at the New England Patriots.
Exactly.
I think they showed you exactly what a recipe is if you have a quarterback that maybe has some struggles with interceptions. So we'll start with Brevin Jordan out of Miami. He's my player card, my latest guy. Go to the site, you can see all about him. This guy, what I loved about him is he was on a subpar Miami team that overachieved. And what I liked is they kept him in the backfield. They moved him in the slot. They just moved him all around. And man, that screams to me Scott Turner guy. So I think when you have that kind of guy, you can mix and match Thomas. I think this whole adage of having a blocking tight end and having that Y speed guy, it's a thing of the past. I think you can have all of the above, because look how big these guys are. We're talking about Thomas, 6'4", 6'5" plus into his size. Brevin Jordan he's a kid, and he's just getting bigger at 6'4". I think the last official check we saw was around 240, 235. So you're talking about adding guys like that. What happens when a quarterback gets in trouble? He looks for that underneath gap. Look what Fitzpatrick did in Miami. Mike Gesicki was his guy. Another fellow Penn State guy, my guy right after Brevin Jordan, Pat Fremont. I like Jordan a lot, but this is a guy that if Jordan is off the board, which I think Jordan is, we talk about day 2, I think that there could be a team that looks at him in late round 1. So, Pat Fremont is more likely to be available early second round when the Washington pick comes around. Man, if you can add a guy like that, he adds more blocking ability than Jordan, and that's where I get upside. I still have him as my tight end 3 behind Jordan, but his ability to inline block, but his ability to get in space and just do it all. The only thing he can't do that Jordan does is he can't really line up in the backfield on that H-back role that I like with Jordan. But man, Pat Fremont, if you can get him in that second round, man, those are 2 tight ends that I think, will really have an opportunity to see in Washington, because you have to believe, as big as receiver is, it's a deep position. But this draft, after you get through the passing, the 3rd, 4th, maybe the 5th tight end, it's a big drop off. So I think you'll see them address that position pretty early.
Yeah, we kind of sat on our hands last year at that position in the draft and let folks pass us by. But baby Gronk, as they call Fremont there. And so if you can get that blocking tight end, there's something about that tight end. And the best thing about a tight end is that blocks up. If you've got deficiencies at your number 2 receiver, what we had, our number 2 receiver last year, boys and girls, was Logan Thomas. So I like that. Any sleepers you have in this draft for the team coming up this year? That's just like, hey, don't count this guy out in the draft.
Yeah, it's a guy, anybody who follows me, I'm all about the small school level HBCU guys. And actually, I was on a show the other night, the Burgundy Network, with David Moore, guard from Grambling State. Man, this guy's awesome. Just check out my article, but check out mainly, YouTube, because this guy just flattens guys. He'll block him, and then before they get up, he jumps on them. He did it at the Senior Bowl. He's done it every year at Grambling. Doug Williams personally reached out to him. He was the first HBCU guy ever invited to the Senior Bowl, quickly followed by, the NC, I think it was NC Central cornerback, Mills, I believe was his name, but he was the first. So, although he doesn't boast, 6'4", 6'5", but we're talking about a blocking guard. I have him just around 6'1", 6'1.5", but he's 350. This guy can move. The situation right now with Brandon Schriff is really volatile. I don't see him returning. I think he'll get his bag this year and he'll walk, because we saw what Tunney got with Kansas City. We've seen these other deals, and they're not in the $18 million range that he seems to be looking for. So I think you have to solidify that guard position. David Moore, Grambling State, I see that guy available. With that 2nd, 3rd round pick Washington got, for the Trent Williams deal, that could be a sweet spot for someone like David Moore.
That would, man. Hey, I like that. And I did watch the interview. He's great. He seems like he's a good kid. Yeah. He has his head on straight. So, I encourage everybody to check him out. Guess what? We'll put that one down there too. So, Adam, you do some hard work. You've got this podcast, Football Garbage Time. You've got your website, the Burgundy Gold Report. Before we wrap up, man, I just want you to talk about what you're doing, because you're a busy man.
Thank you, man. Thank you. I had, unfortunately, and I got this like going. We've been around now for about 4 years. Small team, is right now it's just a 2-man team and my contributor Paul on Twitter. But we grew in January to now we have, our own .com website. So what the idea when I came up with what we wanted to do was take the whole idea of, football player cards. When we were young, we used to get those cards, open them up, lay them on the bed, just look, do we have a rookie card, who we got? So I took that same concept and I applied it to my website. So what you have is you go to my player prospect card section, simply click the card. So one click, you get the evaluation, you get the highlight reel, you get fit in Washington. So even if you're not a diehard Washington fan and you just want to know about draft evaluations, how he fares, definitely come check it out, because there's a lot of people out there that are going to say, well, why should they listen to you, Adam? Well, like you said, this is all I do. I live, breathe football. I was under the tutelage of, Louis Riddick, a lot of great NFL GMs at my time at the Scouting Academy. Learned a lot from these guys, not just about evaluation, but learned a lot about being humble and able to communicate with others and basically understand that, just because you know something doesn't mean you know it all. So right. My main mission with the Burgundy and Gold Report is to really enlighten fans to maybe the other side of football they don't know, which is the draft, because there's a lot of people that'll just rely on, Mel Kipers and this guys. I'm here to tell everybody that unfortunately those guys are compromised. I think after years of success, you have to understand agents send them tapes. Agents maybe send them a little something else. We won't go there. But, someone like me, I'm unbiased. No matter what, when it comes to Washington, I'm not going to evaluate a guy and put him on my site if I don't see him as a fit in Washington. And that comes double time with the small schooler. So, again, the Burgundy and GoldReport.com. It's your one-stop shop. We take all of the Washington.com news. We bring it over there. So once you're looking at our prospects, our draft, you want to go look at Washington, you don't have to leave. We put all the up-to-date news there. I took a brief hiatus for a couple weeks. My father passed away, so God rest his soul. Yes. And I do all of this for him. He was a professional soccer player, but he raised me in American football. So I do all this for him. So that little time off, got me, in the mode of just back to just nothing but film watching. So we're going to have a lot more player prospect cards. As you saw, the Fitzpatrick article, the Gunslinger, just dropped before the show. Again, the Burgundy and GoldReport.com. Follow me on Twitter at the B&G Report, lowercase r. We got a lot of things coming, and, hopefully a lot of more things involved with, the hog farmers and, a lot of great charities out there. But yeah, just stay tuned, man. I thank you for the opportunity because, I love, homegrown up and comers. And, anybody will tell you on here, HTWR, the Burgundy Zone, DC Tweet Team, the Big Douglas Show, the Burgundy Network. I can keep going with my guys,
Yeah.
But I mentioned those because I was with those guys from the beginning, and those guys were recognized by the Washington football team, and the Burgundy Zone came out as the winner for the best fan podcast. But I just mentioned some of those, because I'm just so proud. Wale with what he's got going over there, Emmanuel with the back row Redskins. Again, I can keep going. We don't have so much time, but man, these guys are really what it's all about. We're starting to see the Julie Donaldson of the world. Me, Rick Doc Walker is a mentor to me. Anytime I reach out to him, he's always there. He was with me on my father's tribute show on Football Garbage Time. So, man, it's just great to be on with you, talking ball, because during these crazy times, man, we just gotta, we gotta lighten up, and we gotta talk about someone we love instead of, focusing on, all the bad in the world.
Absolutely. And I encourage you all to check out the tribute show with Doc Walker. That was great, man, for in your father's memory and everything. And my condolences to you as well. And I know from what you do, the work you put in, the grind you put in, you are making him proud. And Doc Walker, dude, I had him on here a while back, and he is a man's man and very down to earth. So, I know that was an awesome interview you had with him and everything. But check him out, Football Garbage Time. That's the podcast. You can find it anywhere where podcasts are. You can also follow him at FB Garbage Time. You can also follow him at on Twitter at the B&G Report, and follow his website. All that information will be in the description. But this is Adam Aniba. Adam, I appreciate you, man. Hopefully I can have you back on here again, because I always love having heavy hitters on here and bridging the gap between the website, the YouTube world, and the Twitter world. So it's been great for you. But y'all, as always here, I love you guys. Thanks for helping the channel grow. Go out there and check out Adam's stuff. I'm Sanchez 405. Love, peace, and hail. And I'll be talking to you real soon. I'm out.
LDC, man.